This is episode number 44 with Tamsen Fadal, the Emmy Award-winning journalist and author of The New Single. Welcome to the Good Life Coach podcast. I am your host, Michelle Lamoureux. The intention of this show is to awaken you to your fullest potential. Join me each week for inspiring interviews to elevate an area of your life, as well as interviews with women entrepreneurs who are creating success on their own terms. Each episode provides actionable tips to guide you to design a life you love. Hey there, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Good Life Coach podcast. I have such a great lineup this fall, starting with today's guest, Tamsen Fadal, who is a 12-time Emmy Award-winning TV anchor in New York City. Now, Tamsen has appeared on The Today Show, Good Morning America, Lifetime, A&E, and many other media outlets. And she also hosts Broadway Profiles, as well as another show called Changemakers. And if that doesn't keep her busy enough, she also is involved in many charitable organizations and co-owns a jewelry company with her actress cousin, Shannon Elizabeth. But the reason Tamsen's on the show today is to talk about another hat that she wears, which is as an author. She wrote a book called The New Single, Finding, Fixing, and Falling Back in Love with Yourself After a Breakup or Divorce. And she wrote the book to help women emerge from a big life change with confidence, grace, and a recipe for self-care. So I asked Tamsen to come on the show and talk about the valuable lessons from her book, which I loved because it was like getting advice from your best girlfriend. Because of her celebrity status in New York City, Tamsen's own divorce was very public and very painful. And so she wrote this book as a way to pass on what she learned, not just to share what helped her get back to feeling herself, but how to really love yourself. So in just a 30-minute interview, we cover so much. We talk about her start in journalism, but then we dive right into her book with strategies for getting you through the first 90 days after a breakup, how to make your home feel like yours again if you choose to stay in the same home that you once shared with your ex, how to get back into the dating world, how Tamsen got out of $100,000 in debt that was caused by her divorce, and so much more. So before we get into the actual episode, I want to let you know that Tamsen has generously offered 3 copies of her book for my listeners. So if you're interested in winning a free copy for yourself or for a friend, if you're already on my email list, then today you've received an email from me in your inbox, and all you have to do is reply, I'm interested in the new single. The New Single is the name of the book. And if you're not yet part of my community, all you have to do is go to thegoodlifecoach.com/044 for today and sign up for the email list. And once you put in your email and join, you'll immediately get a welcome email from me in your inbox. And all you have to do is reply to that. Same thing. I'm interested in the new single. I do want to note that the book can only be mailed within the United States. So if you've won, I'll let you know by email and I'll get your contact information, and then Tamsen's PR people will send you a copy of her book. So thank you, Tamsen, for that. And let's get into the show. Hi, Tamsen. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I'm so excited to dive into your beautifully written book, The New Single, Finding, Fixing, and Falling Back in Love with Yourself After a Breakup or Divorce. I loved your book.
Oh, thank you.
But so I love kicking it off, though, first with getting a little backstory about my guest, because I think the women listening like to understand how somebody ended up in the career they're in. So what brought you into the world of journalism?
I think from a very young age, I've always enjoyed stories of people, and that was a big part of it. And in school, I studied all different things as you do, and I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked people people
Mm.
stories.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what keeps me still so excited about it today is I love hearing stories of people creating, changing their lives,
Mm.
inspiring. So, I anchor the news and I am on the air talking about the day-to-day news, but what I really enjoy are those human interest stories because I think that's what helps us evolve.
It's so true. And in addition to anchoring the news, you're also a producer, executive producer of a program called Broadway Profiles and
Right,
another
right.
one called Changemakers, where you're interviewing people who are creating success and helping evolve and do interesting things in unique ways. But I think, what would be kind of interesting is if you could take us into the day in the life, because I think you have a very public profile. People see you on TV, but we don't know what it's like behind the scenes. Could you tell us
Oh
a little bit
gosh.
about, well, what is it? Yeah, what's a typical day
Yeah.
like for you with all of the different things that you're juggling?
It's interesting. I get up early. I'm an early riser. I used to do the morning news, and so I think I get used to that. So I don't get up quite as early, which used to be 2:30 in the morning. But
Whoa.
I'm up now, which I consider sleeping in about 8 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
Get a workout in. I love yoga and Pilates, and you probably knew the yoga from the book. Pilates is a new addition to me, but that kind of helps get my mind a little clear. And then I do some writing because I think that's important. I can't always do it because I get writer's block like everybody
Mm.
else.
Hmm.
And then I kind of, I figure out the day. The Broadway Profile show is something that's airing monthly right now across the country. And we're excited about that because we're picking up more markets as we go and
Wow.
hoping one day to be weekly if possible.
Wow.
And yeah, so I don't know, fingers crossed on that. And then, a day in the life really is I love New York City. I walk around a lot, enjoy Central Park whenever I can. And with regard to the two segments, one's a segment for WPIX and one
Mm.
is the actual show,
Mm.
but there are interviews that come up during the week. So I do about two interviews before I go into work. And then I hit the door of the station around 2 o'clock. And 2:30, I have my first meeting of the day for the 5 and 6 o'clock news,
Wow.
and then I do those, and then I also do the 10 p.m. newscast, and so that's just constantly, figuring out what's going on, what's important, how the story's changed or evolved, talking with the producers and the reporters,
Mm.
editors, and then my weekends are my own for the most part.
Mm.
I try to get out of town when I can, and then I try to get the show produced too, the Broadway Profile show produced, but we have a good team and we have some fun Broadway actors to be able to interview. So that's always
So
nice.
fun. Wow. So that's a busy day.
Yes,
You do
that's
more in one
a
day
little
than most
busy.
people do in a week. My goodness. Okay. So, in addition to that, though, so in addition to anchoring the 5, the 6, the 10 o'clock news, you're also
Mhm.
the author of 3 books. And
Right.
your most recent, the new single that we talked about,
Hmm.
beautiful book.
Thank you.
What inspired you to write the book?
I get asked that a lot, and I guess I think, and now that I look back on it, initially I thought I needed to, get a lot of words out. I really think I looked out there for something that would make sense to me because I was going back and kind of misremembering the past, romanticizing the past of my relationship. Because even if you think you're okay and you're good with the divorce and you're ready to go and this is not working, it's still not easy when you're sitting at home on a Saturday night by yourself or you're, dinner for one, standing up at the counter in your kitchen. I think I needed a roadmap of sorts in my own life. And I found out that there were some little actions and attitudes that really worked for me. And
Mm.
I don't know. I wrote some of them down. Some of them I still use. A lot of them I still use today, quite frankly. And I thought that they were interesting. And I knew that there were a lot of people that were going through divorces at the time. And there was nothing out there for me. I didn't want to learn how
Mm.
to date again. I wanted to learn how to love myself again.
Love that.
And so that's what I wrote.
I love that. And the book really is all about loving yourself and taking care of yourself, which is at the heart of what part of the show is about, is really encouraging women to own their lives and live their best life. And
Hmm.
oftentimes we have a hard time doing that. So I would say this book is even for anyone going through any major transition. But that being said, since there's such a deep pain that comes from the loss of a relationship, especially if it's a divorce, a woman can feel like she can't get back up again. She's just too distraught. So you have a chapter called Survival Mode, the first 90 days. And I thought this was
Right.
genius. Can you talk about what this is and how a woman can put it into action?
Yeah, I think it was really important for me. I don't not under any illusion that you're going to be able to change things very quickly. But I thought it took me about a good year just kind of start to feel balanced again, not
Mhm.
even normal, but just kind of get it together. And so I thought, well, for me, I needed a kind of something finite and organized. I'm good with charts and I'm good with, you know, beginnings and endings and dates. And so for me, it was a kind of 90-day increments that I gave myself. And, you know, the first 90 days was really, really important when I finally kind of realized that, wow, I'm divorced. I'm going to be the new
Mm.
single. I'm single again, and I called it the new single because I think it's a new type of single. You know, not
Mm.
I wasn't the one I was when I was 18 or 26 or 30 years old. It's a single that has been through a lot of things and is getting back out there. So for the first 90 days, I said be the architect of your life and start building
Mm.
from the inside because that's what I needed to do. So it's where I began. I started removing different obstacles, whether it was, things that were in my path every day. I'd walk in and see a picture we bought together when we were away, or I saw the bed we slept in that shouldn't be there anymore. I
Mhm.
really had to remove some of those things. And then I had to figure out who I was when I was, looking at myself. I wanted to make a change, but I didn't know who I was anymore. I had constantly, I was a wife. I was, with somebody all the time. And
Mm.
this was a new person. So I said, think of it as you're just kind of surveying the surroundings again. And that's what I did, because that's what you would do when you survive, right? You'd figure out what you
Mhm.
have and figure out what you need in order to survive. And the part of the book, I guess, that was a little interesting to a lot of people was the fact that I had recipes in it and workout things and hair tips.
I
And
took
they were
notes
like,
on the
whoa.
hair stuff. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. They said, why would that, people would say, why would that go in a book about dating and divorce? And I said, because the book's not about dating and divorce. The book is about, figuring out who you are again. And that was what was super, super important. So those first 90 days were about that. They were about finding a new routine, figuring out your path, planning your time, being very organized. Because I think that's just critical if you're going to survive anything at all,
Mhm.
whether it's a job loss, whether it's empty nest, whether it's a divorce, a breakup. I mean, you name it, any kind of loss or life change that we go through, you've got to have a plan to be able to get to the next step.
It's so true, and by chunking it down into 90 days, it doesn't feel as overwhelming. You're giving
Right.
yourself a shorter time frame, like, "Okay, I'm just gonna get to this time, and then
Right.
I'm gonna
It feels
reevaluate."
doable.
It feels way more doable.
Yeah.
It's interesting, you wrote in the book, people ask you all sorts of questions like, "How are you doing? Did you do the right thing? What did you learn?" And you said, "But no one ever asked me the most important question. How did you take care of yourself through your breakup?" And that's
Hmm.
the heart of this book. It's really about taking care of yourself.
Well, and I think that that's what we all fail to do. I mean, we do, whether we're, career women or we're moms, we're single, we're trying to get a job again, whatever it is, we often, as women, and men do it too, but as women, we really forget to take care of ourselves. And it is something where you need a constant, constant reminder, because once it's too far gone, you need a roadmap to get back together.
It's so true, and I have to tell you, one of my favorite chapters was "Unclutter Your Life, Declutter Your
Oh,
Heart." So, I loved
thank you.
this. I
It's
was
mine
like,
too, actually.
it
Yeah.
is? I was like, "Oh, this is
Yes.
so good." So, you talked about can you take us into so you give a lot of great tips, but you talk about
Oh,
what you
thank
did
you.
in your bedroom, your kitchen. I'm still thinking about the red poppy. I don't know if you still have that,
Yes.
and your
Yeah,
wardrobe.
I
So, tell
moved
us about
actually, but
this.
I need to do my wall again. So I really did change things because I had to. I was a declutter person before. There was the Marie Kondo. I didn't have Marie Kondo, so I just had like whatever advice I could kind of figure out. But I really did make some changes. I was living in the same apartment. I was in
Mhm.
a lot of debt. I
Yeah.
couldn't afford to move somewhere else, and I needed to kind of make things change. And that's what I did. And so the home was the easiest place for me to start. It's, there's more of an absolute, a change you can actually see when you do that. And so the home was where I started. So I'm like kind of a minimalist. So I wanted to make sure everything was very clean and decluttered, because my heart wasn't. My heart was like a
Mm.
kind of a cluttered mess of memories and feelings and emotions. And so that was really, really important. I painted, I repainted my house. I had a poppy in my wall. I changed my bedroom. I got rid of the bed. I did anything that I could possibly do.
Mm.
And it's funny, I've actually gone back and looked at old pictures and I went, wow, I wasn't half bad at some of that. I didn't have money to spend. So I was kind of doing it myself. it was poppy red that I remember getting it, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be just a mess when I open this can of paint. But I had a beautiful kind of
Mm.
Italian red kitchen at that point. I had slate gray on my closets. I had a chalkboard column
Love
in
it.
the corner of my house, so I could just write thoughts whenever I wanted. And then I repainted furniture that I had gotten so it looked different. So I had blue
Mm.
furniture. So I don't know. I tried.
I
I did the
love it.
best I could, but it was important for me, for things to look very different, and important for me to get rid of any signs of something that wasn't going to, serve me anymore, make me happy, or help me grow. And the house was where I found that I started.
Yeah, I thought it was genius. And the truth is that everything carries energy. So if you walk into that
Hmm.
space and all it does is scream and remind you of the
Yep.
past, that's just going to just bring you down. So the fact that you redid the bedroom, I thought that was so smart. Got the
So
new bed,
important of
new
all places
linens.
too.
Yes, of all places. And the wardrobe, you talk about getting rid
Hmm.
of maybe a dress that you wore on a
Yep.
significant evening night out with that person. And I thought, wow, that's really powerful because if it's constantly reminding you, it doesn't allow for the space in your heart to do the work that it needs to do to come back to
Hmm.
yourself, which is what the goal is. So,
It really is. I also, I did have the poppy color in my kitchen, and I had a big painting it was a picture of a poppy field. It was in Italy, I think, which I love. You're
mm,
traveling, and you probably know that from the book.
yes.
But it was just like this big red poppy, and it just made me feel very powerful. And I think
Mm.
that that's just, I don't know, it was just very important to me for whatever reason. So I think you have to surround yourself with things that make you smile, make you happy, and make you feel good.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that idea of feeling powerful by seeing an image. So that's what you want to do. You want to empower yourself, which I know you're all about anyway, empowering women. So, and actually, as somebody who's been a couple for a long time with my husband, I was thinking about
Right.
how we brought furniture into our home when we moved to San Diego. What did we keep? What did we get rid of? What did we
Right.
merge? What's a little bit more masculine? Where did I maybe compromise? Is there an area that I maybe want to redo now? So I just loved it. I love that. So
Thank you.
yeah, so powerful. So Tamsen, I'm wondering, there are going to be women out there who have to stay connected to their ex, right? So
Hmm.
there may be children
Sure.
involved. You
Sure.
shared a business, maybe you separated all of that after, but you also had a public divorce because of your
Hmm.
celebrity status being on television every day, which, there's just various layers that can be involved, including maybe
Sure,
the
of
person had
course.
an affair. So you may have to stay connected to this person you once loved, and it might hurt so badly. So, how can you, like, what strategies can you offer to help a woman stay focused on herself, loving herself, connecting to herself when she maybe keep getting re-triggered? Like, right, maybe she did the house, but now she has
Right.
to interact. So, what strategies can we offer up?
I mean, I think there's some important things, and I think that this was the biggest one that I didn't realize. Like, he was never going to provide me closure, and that was something that was
Oh.
so important for me to figure out. And it took me a long time because I thought, well, if I can get one more sentence in, if I could ask
Mm.
one more question, if I could, turn something in another way so I don't think of it that way. So I had to really look into myself for that and to make it feel right. I interviewed some moms for the book, obviously, because I thought it was really important.
Mm.
I don't have children myself, and so I couldn't speak to that, and I didn't want to try to do that because I don't think that that's fair to somebody that has children to try to speak for them. But obviously, that is something that you have to work out and you have to talk about, and you have to be good for for the kids. And so for that, I kind of give it over to moms out there that would understand what their children need and what they need to
Mm.
communicate. But that can't be the excuse for exchanging, dropping kids off and then exchanging some kind of words and some kind of sparring at the same time.
Mm.
Like, you have to keep that in perspective. The financial issues, he and I had to talk for a very long time about financial issues, and I noticed every time we did it, it was a war. And I
Mm.
would say, just this question. I've just got to ask you this one question. How could you? So I had to start going through an attorney and a mediator, and then an accountant to try to make things right, because I couldn't do that just one more thing without doing that. I think that if you don't look for them for closure
Mm.
and you realize you have to pay attention to what you need, and it goes back to caring for yourself, you will realize every time you're around that person, if there's fighting going on,
Yeah.
there could just be, simple sadness. Like there's a lot of different emotions that divorce evokes.
Sure.
And you've got to be able to know that you have to come back to yourself and take care of yourself. And if you feel that hot feeling inside, you feel that
Mm.
anger inside, there's so many emotions and physical feelings that come up with that. And you've got to figure out what will work for you. I say the least contact, the best,
Mm.
unless you have a situation where you have children that you've got to talk about.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think we've all been there with the closure. I just need,
Sure.
like you said, just
One more thing.
one more thing, and then I'll be
Yes.
fine. One more. Oh, but
Yes.
then now there's one more thing. And so,
Yes.
yeah, that's so wise. You did mention debt. So I know from your
Mhm.
book and reading more about you that you were in, was it $100,000 worth of debt
It
as a
was a
result?
$100,000 of debt. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I could, oh, sorry, I could see this could
No,
actually easily happen when you merge bank accounts and credit cards.
sure.
So, yeah. So, what's a way to get out of that?
I mean, to get out of the debt itself, or to not have that in the first place. I
Well,
guess
I think
those are two different things.
you're totally right. I mean, I guess both in some way. Where would you start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think if I were ever to go back and do it again, I would keep things very, very separate. I just didn't, I took after what my parents did. My parents were like,
Mhm.
you get married, you stay married.
Yeah.
And that wasn't what happened. I was the first divorce in my family. And so I followed what they did, and I didn't understand it at all. When it came to, getting out of the debt, I had to pay attention, and my breakup left me broke, and
Mhm.
it should not do that. And I really had to kind of chart a course and figure out what I needed to do with regard to getting out of debt. And I was saving, and I was paying attention, and I was trying to find the right people to surround myself with to understand money. Amanda Steinberg is the founder of
Mm. Yeah.
dailyworth.com, and at the time gave me a lot of advice, because there are a lot of women who are divorced that are really, really struggling. And I had a very, very difficult time. I was on my credit report constantly. I was moving things around until I would whittle down one credit card and another. Um, I, I always, I've seen a couple of people do this. Which is like, I'm already in this much debt. What difference does another
Oh no.
$2,000 make?
Mm.
What difference does it make? It's already 20,000. And so I have to say I was very, very cognizant of the fact that I didn't want it to get worse, just because I felt like giving up so many different times. And, I did all sorts of things. I did extra jobs. I did extra, gigs. I did anything that
Wow.
I could to try to pay things off. My advice, because I never know what situation someone is in, is not get so discouraged where you give up on it, and just get yourself into a deeper situation, because there are people that are experts at it that can help you move through that a little bit better.
Yeah. Who did you find that was critical in terms of your self-care and nurturing as part of your team? So it sounds like you reached out to Amanda. Was it a therapist? Like, who do you think needs to be on that team?
Yeah, I had a therapist again. Like, I didn't even have the money, so everything was, who do I have that
Mm.
my insurance will pay for that I can just go to? I worked with a therapist through a lot of things. I did a lot of working out and self reflection. I talked with friends a lot. The
Mm.
ones that were, a very small circle of them. I didn't bring it into work, because that was always a big concern of mine, just because it was pretty public.
Sure.
Money and financial was a really big part of it. And then I think I also did a lot of soul searching with people who, the few people that knew me well enough to figure out
Mm.
what I wanted to do next. Because I think you're re-identifying who you are. You're trying to
Absolutely.
connect with yourself again, figure out who you are, establish boundaries with your ex, establish boundaries at work, so you're not water cooler, conversation.
Mhm.
So I kept my circle small, but I feel like I equipped myself kind of with the right team.
I think it's important to just say that a year out, you were getting a promotion, like your life was really turning around. Because I think it's going to
Yeah.
help other women listening know that, with the debt, gosh, that was another layer of pain that was being added.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the fact that, taking those 90-day increments and just keep going, that things will turn around. They will absolutely turn
Yeah.
around.
They really will. And because there are those days where you come home, and I remember I came home a couple times to my apartment empty, because I got rid of so much stuff on my own.
Mm.
And I just went, oh my gosh, this is my life. You're
Mm.
40 something, you don't have children, you have two dogs, you have no furniture, you have no money, you have a job, but nobody really knows everything that's going on. They just know what they read in the paper. And how did I get here? But that's why the 90 days and bit by bit and, a little bit at a time was really important to me, and doing things that were tangible things that you could see a difference, whether it was as stupid as painting a wall, or, walking in the park, or just trying not to lose that sense of self. And I just built and built about, and I wrote a lot too. I wrote down a lot of my achievements so I could actually see those.
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, and like you said, I was on a morning show where I wasn't sure what was going to happen. It was a little unstable, to moving into the evening, to then taking an opportunity with Broadway where I wasn't even getting paid at that point. I was just loved it so much, and I wanted to just have something different going on in my life, because we had a business together. So a lot of my time had been spent on that, and it was hard to give that up.
Yeah, wow. So congrats for all that, and I think it's gonna
Oh,
inspire
thank
other
you.
women listening to this. So,
I hope so.
yeah, it totally will, and, at some point, some of these women listening are gonna go, "I do wanna get back out there." And one of the things that I loved in your book too was how you talk about how we take red flags and turn them into pink
hmm
flags. Can you talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely did it. I think that, we say things like, "Oh, that it was such a red flag." And we know it's a red flag, but what we did was kind of change the conversation. And when I met my ex originally, he was in no position to be in a relationship. And I said, "Well, he said he gave his wife the house because they got divorced. He didn't give his wife the house. He lost the house." There were so many things that I made look a little bit better than they were. And I
Mhm.
think that we often do that. We'll say, "Well, he didn't call and didn't show up for the date, but he was probably really busy." Or he was, we give excuses. I mean, the pink flags are just kind of funny way of saying it, but we really
Uh-huh.
do give excuses to ourselves. We do it to ourselves,
Mhm.
and then we get angry at ourselves. In retrospect, if you go back and look at whether it's romance, or whether it's job, or whether it's a friendship,
Mhm.
you kind of know, your gut tells you. And if you really, really listen to your gut, you and don't waver from that, you'll usually make the right decision.
Yeah, so smart. Thank you for that. I love
It's
that.
true. It's hard for us to do that though. It is hard. It's the neat thing about my situation was he loved to jump without nets. Well, I
Mm,
knew, like, in my core of cores, that's probably not the always going to work. And I
yeah.
went, "Oh, it's the greatest thing ever."
Mm.
People say sometimes the thing you love about somebody is what you wind up hating about them, but I think that
Mhm.
this is the thing that you are aware of about somebody is probably the truth.
Yeah, it's your gut is trying to talk to you, but you're like, "Oh, no,
hmm
it's not that bad. No, it's fine."
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we've all been there. We've all been there.
I
So self-care is a huge part of your book. It's now a
hmm
huge part of your life. I'm just gonna list your author, producer,
hmm
12-time Emmy award-winning journalist and anchor, executive producer, 2 shows. You co-founded a jewelry company with your actress
hmm
cousins, Shannon and Elizabeth, and you do charitable work. So,
Yes.
tell us a morning, evening routine. How do you incorporate all like this wellness, this self-care in your life?
Um, that's the most important thing for me, to be honest. Like I said, I get up
Mm.
early. I probably miss a little too much sleep, but it's important to me to do that. I get up early and I make sure either I'm walking in the park. Pilates has become my new obsession. So I do a ton of that, and then I work out at the gym, and I just try to make sure I get that done. 4 to 5 days a week, to just make
Wow.
sure it's done. And then, so I do it on the weekends. So then during the week, I have only 2 or 3 days to do that. So right now it's like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. And everything with me is scheduled. Like, my whole calendar is this most crazy person scheduling. But that's what I do, because I think that that's the most important. If my head is not right, then nothing else is going to work. And the thing that helps me to make my head right is to make sure that's taken care of first.
Mm.
And I full disclosure, see a therapist to talk to somebody to make sure that I don't ever get back into those
Mm.
into a place where I haven't made peace with the past. And I'm practicing self-care, and I think that that's part of it for me.
Yeah, and it's everything actually, and it's something we
hmm
need to continue to work on as women. So again, it'll inspire other people hearing, knowing how busy your schedule is, that you make time for it and it can happen. So thank you. Before we wrap up, Tamsin, can you leave the women listening with your 3 best tips on how to live a good life?
Oh gosh, I feel like there's so many these days that I want to just like tell everybody everything that I've learned. I think the first thing, especially if you're going through a divorce, is what I said: make peace with the past. I think that is super important because you're not going to go anywhere when you're looking backwards, and that goes with what I was saying. Like, stop misremembering it and start romanticizing the future, and really looking forward. People say that they do the boards, to inspire them, or
Mm.
they believe that if they put something out in the universe. I really do believe that it is
Mm.
important to look forward, decide what it is you want, and go after that, and not leave it up to chance. And for me, it was little things. I would write down. I'm a big list person, so I'd write down
Mm.
just to get out of bed in the morning. Walk the dog. Make coffee. Write down what you want, and that list gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as you go forward. And then finally, I like to say, live your someday today. We
Mm.
oftentimes say, "Oh, someday I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that," and I feel like my someday's here, and so I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to live my someday today.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you so much. And for your
Thank you.
beautiful book. This has been such a great conversation. Where can I direct people to learn more about you?
Well, tamsenfadal.com. I have my website there, and then you can follow me on social media at Tamsen Fadal anytime. And then my book is the new single. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I always like to talk about this because if it helps or inspires one person, it makes me very happy.
Oh, I know you've definitely inspired many women today, including me. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I really hope you enjoyed that conversation. I mean, most of us at some point have been through a breakup, but I think a divorce adds a whole nother layer of pain, especially if there's children involved or some other reason that keeps you connected to that person. And so we covered some of my favorite parts of her book, but the book goes into way more depth. So if you or somebody you know would benefit from it, I would encourage you to go get a copy. Thank you again for tuning in, and would love to hear any feedback you have over at thegoodlifecoach.com/044. Feel free to leave a comment or your favorite takeaway. And as always, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to reconnecting next Wednesday. Bye for now.